And hello, one and all, and welcome to my live review for last night's episode of Monday Night Raw. We're going to take a look at everything that took place on the August 1st, 2016 edition of Raw that emanated live from Atlanta, Georgia. What went down? We're only less than 3 weeks away till the biggest pay-per-view of the summer. SummerSlam 2016 is, of course, fast approaching. There were overall a number of things that I did enjoy this show. While everything was not perfect on this show, it certainly was a step down from last week's episode of Raw, but that was going to be tough to top because, in my opinion, last week's Raw was the Raw of the year so far. But this week's show, I thought there were a number of good things advanced, number of potential matchups that we have that could be added to the SummerSlam card. So overall, I thought Raw was a success in that I felt that it utilized the 3 hours effectively. Could it have been better? Yes, but I enjoyed last night's Raw. I really did. From start to finish, it was a good show. So without further ado, let's take a look at what took place on Raw last night. So how do we kick off Raw this week? Well, we have Sasha Banks come out, the new WWE Women's Champion, who won in that epic encounter with Charlotte last Monday night in Pittsburgh. It was one of the best women's matches I have ever seen in person. It's one of the best women's matches I've seen on Raw. Sasha deserved it. She came out to a great reaction here in Atlanta, Georgia. She talked about, how last year during SummerSlam, everybody was talking about Bayley versus Sasha and how they stole the show and the entire SummerSlam weekend. And she said this year it won't be different. She will walk into SummerSlam as champion. She will walk out defending her title against Charlotte. Charlotte, of course, made her way down to the ring, and she says that she was the very best over the past 300 days as the Women's and Divas champion combined. She said Sasha was a one-night stand, and Sasha made this nice little comment. She said, if it wasn't for Charlotte's daddy having a one-night stand, she may not even be here right now. So this led to Chris Jericho coming down to the ring. He kept saying, quiet, 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 quiet. I mean, Jericho here was full-on troll mode. He's awesome. Heel Jericho equals gold. I just loved how he kept saying quiet, quiet, quiet. I mean, it was just so irritating, yet you got to laugh. I mean, it was good stuff from Jericho. So he got into the ring. He started kissing Charlotte's ass. He pretty much caught out Sasha. And then eventually, this surprised me, Enzo Amore would come down to the ring by himself, no big cast, and he would back up Sasha. Him and Sasha were kind of playing off each other here, and he said that they have a couple haters here. And Enzo called Jericho Bon Jovi, and this was good stuff between Enzo and Jericho. Eventually, this would lead to, Mick Foley coming down to the ring and saying that since it's a new era, we're going to be having the first mixed tag match of the new era. It was Enzo and Sasha Banks teaming up to take on Chris Jericho and Charlotte. While the segment went 20 minutes, I didn't have a problem with this because I really enjoyed the verbal sparring between Enzo and Jericho. Makes me think that a feud between them in the future would be really good to watch. But this led to our first match of the evening, so I liked how that was set up. It was the mixed tag match of Enzo and Sasha Banks versus Jericho and Charlotte. Also, it was interesting to note that Kevin Owens was out at commentary. Like I said, good mixed tag match. The thing, the way that the match came down to the end was that Charlotte was able to get the win after Dana Brooke came to ringside. She distracted Sasha Banks, and Sasha tried to knock Dana off of the apron, but Sasha slapped Jericho in the face. This led to Charlotte hitting Sasha with the natural selection for the win. And after the match, it looked like Jericho gave Enzo a code breaker. Eventually, Big Cass would come down for the save. And then later on in the night, we would see Jericho doing a backstage interview, and then Kevin Owens said that he had Jericho's back. So what it looks like we're going to be getting for SummerSlam is Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho versus Enzo and Big Cass, which I'm perfectly fine with. It gives all four guys something to do. I always said that Jericho and Kevin Owens could be an entertaining tag team, and if that's the direction that they go in for, we could call them Jericho or Y2KO. I kind of like Y2KO, but I feel like this would be a good match, a good spot for both guys, on the SummerSlam card, especially for Enzo and Cass. They're not going to be going after the titles. I feel like putting them in the ring with two great competitors like the veteran Jericho or the great Kevin Owens What more could you want? I feel like it's going to be a good match if that's the direction, and it looks like that is what's going to be taking place at SummerSlam. So I like the way that they set this up. We have after this Braun Strowman. He gets in the ring and destroys Evan Anderhold, who I believe was I can't remember his name on NXT. He was just there. He was one of the guys they were using as an enhancement talent. But if you know who I'm talking about, you've seen this guy on NXT before. He said he wants to win $5,000 by beating Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman proceeds to go into the ring and demolish the guy. So I really like how they brought these squash matches back. That way you save the fresh matches later on. You build the guy up instead of having him go out there and destroy a guy like a Cesaro or a Neville or an Owens in his first match. You save those matches for later, or a Rusev, and you build him up to eventually face credible opponents such as the ones I named on pay-per-view. So they did the same thing here later on in the show with Nia Jax. Nia Jax would get in the ring and completely demolish a local talent. So, and it makes these people in their finishing moves, I feel, look effective. So I'm okay with what they're doing with Nia on this show and Braun Strowman, because I definitely see potential, and I never thought I'd say this, but I do see potential in Braun Strowman, so I'm definitely willing to give him a chance. We then had a segment between Mick and Steph. They were talking about Braun Strowman, and then Mark Henry would come in, and he would butt in and say, I've been drafted to Raw, and I feel like I am, since I'm representing WWE in the upcoming Rio Olympic Games, I deserve a United States Championship opportunity because I want to reopen the Hall of Pain. And then Henry said he will challenge Rusev tonight for the United States Championship. So that match was announced for later on in the show. Henry said he will bring the U.S. title back to the U.S. because that's what he does. So we had that to look forward to later on. We then had the Shining Stars versus the Golden Truth. Do you care? No, Shining Stars won. So we're going to skip through that match. They really need to bring Carlito back if they're going to be keeping the Shining Stars around. Otherwise, I feel like it's just pretty much pointless because there's no reaction for them. I mean, they're good wrestlers, don't get me wrong, but they need a mouthpiece. They need something. And what they have right now is not working. We then had what I really enjoyed it was supposed to be Michael Cole interviewing Finn Balor. Cole began his interview with Balor, talked about how they selected Finn #1 in the draft and how he had one of the best debuts in Raw history. But before he could even begin the interview, Seth freaking Rollins would come down to the ring. Seth would get right in Finn's face. He would say that, what you did was okay. You pinned Roman Reigns in the main event of Raw. You're going to be facing me for the Universal title at SummerSlam. But the thing is, Rollins said that he defeated Roman Reigns on his first night back in the ring to win the championship. So Rollins kind of won up Balor there. He said Balor is okay, but you're not as good as Rollins. Balor would then ask Rollins that you pretty much had everything handed to you, and this really ticked Rollins off. He said this is his show. He ain't backing down, and at SummerSlam, he's going to take that Universal title. And, this was good stuff between Balor and Rollins. Shout out to Robbie if you're watching. Thank you for tuning in, buddy. Appreciate it. Realest YouTuber in the room. How you doing? But I'm really excited for this match. I really like how they kept Finn's, talking short, sweet, and to the point, seeing as how he is not the best on the mic. He's okay. But they really had Rollins do the majority of the talking here. But I just like the way that Balor kind of stared down Rollins, let him get his points in. And then eventually Rollins tried to, one-up Balor. Balor said that, and I like this, he will have Rollins' ass handed to him at SummerSlam. And Balor tried to lay a cheap shot in on Rollins tried to land a cheap shot in on Balor. Balor would hit him with the Pele kick and would lead to Rollins scurrying. So it's going to be one hell of a match. I still can't believe we are getting it at SummerSlam. And I can't wait to see who wins. It could go either way. And I like that. We don't know who's going to walk out of this match the winner. We have Rusev versus Mark Henry for the United States Championship. Okay match. But the thing, Rusev won after he hit the winner via submission after he locked the Accolade in. The important thing was, after the match, Rusev gets on the mic. He says, the Olympics are rigged, and the only reason the Americans win is because the Olympics rig it in favor of the United States. He said they don't even allow people from Russia or Bulgaria to compete in the Olympics. And he says he is a natural athlete and nobody can defeat him. And he kind of lays out a challenge here. Nobody can beat him. Who comes down to the ring? But Roman Reigns. That's right. You heard me. Roman Reigns got in the ring, beat the shit out of Rusev, caused him to scurry from ringside, and he hit him with a Superman punch, and he hit him with Superman punch off the steel ring steps. So it looks like we will be getting Roman Reigns versus Rusev for the United States Championship. A lot of people were surprised about this. I certainly was surprised about this. I didn't think they would have Roman Reigns anywhere less than the WWE Championship or the Universal title picture. But seeing as how he lost last Monday on Raw, it was really interesting to see what direction they'd go in with Reigns. I feel like this will be a positive for him. If they're going to do Rusev Reigns one-on-one, I have another scenario that I'll get to later on in this review. But if they do Reigns and Rusev one-on-one, I think it'll be a good match. I've seen them have good matches before. When they came here, WWE had a live event in Pittsburgh a year ago. I thought they had a really good match on that live event card. So I know that they can bring it when it comes to the bell-to-bell action. But I think this is a good spot for Roman Reigns. If you have him beat Rusev for the United States Championship, we'll have to see how it plays out at SummerSlam. But this was certainly interesting to say the least, and I didn't see it coming, so I kind of like that happening. After this, we segue into fifth match. It was Darren Young versus Titus O'Neil. O'Neil, surprisingly, was able to get the victory after he grabbed a handful of tights. So looks like they might be hinting at a possible heel turn here for Titus O'Neil. Afterwards, Titus kind of was getting in Darren's face, and then Darren kind of slapped Titus across the face. So we might be seeing a rekindling of the Darren Young-Titus O'Neil feud. We'll have to see where they go here. It was interesting. I do see the potential. I've always said Titus O'Neil has potential. It would be nice if the company would get behind him, because we've seen his stuff in NXT when he went down to Full Sail. I thought he killed it when he was down there. He was really good as a heel. So if he could do that on the main roster, I think he definitely he could be an upper mid-carder. Maybe main event. I don't know. You got to give the guy an opportunity. So we'll see if that's what they have in store for these two. We then had Mick, Stephanie, Sheamus, and Cesaro backstage. Sheamus said he wanted to know why Mark Henry was getting a U.S. title opportunity, and then Cesaro went in and he says that the people in the Cesaro section didn't want to see Sheamus. They began to bicker back and forth, and he says, Foley says that whoever impresses them most in the ring tonight will earn them a future United States Championship opportunity. So I like this. You add stakes to the Sheamus and Cesaro match that we saw, which was a good match, which we saw later on in the show. And in that match, Cesaro was able to pick up the victory there. He was able to get the win over Sheamus by hitting I think he hit the neutralizer, but we'll get back to that match. Here we go. Cesaro, yes, he countered Sheamus' Irish Curse backbreaker with the neutralizer. So kind of jumping around here with the show, but Sheamus, Cesaro, always thought they have good matches. And then they had a post-match brawl, which was nice. What I would like to see is a triple threat for the United States Championship. Cesaro versus Roman Reigns versus Rusev for that title. I think that would be awesome. It would be a great way to involve all three men. Cesaro deserves to be in it. So let me know, get down in the comment section below, guys. What do you think of a triple threat match with Cesaro, Roman Reigns, and Rusev for the U.S. title? I think it could be a kick-ass match and a good addition to the SummerSlam card. But going back previously, before this, we had the New Day come down to the rings, and the club challenged them to a match. The club challenged New Day with only 2 members. One would be barred from ringside. And the way that they determined this was they drew fruit, and they drew 2 oranges and a banana. And the funny thing was they had the 2 oranges in their hands, and then Xavier was going to put the banana on top. He's like, wait, we can't do that. So I laughed at that. Funny stuff here from the New Day, but they were also mindful of the threat that the club posed. And this match really didn't, last long. It ended once the club were able to, I believe Anderson got rolled up by Big E, I want to say. And the winners were the New Day, but afterwards, that didn't really matter because the New Day were completely destroyed by the club. They were laid out. Xavier Woods would come down to ringside. He would try to make the save, but he would be vanquished as well by the club. So it looks like another match that hasn't been announced, but will probably be taking place at SummerSlam is the club versus the New Day. I think it'll be a nice tag team match. Definitely the New Day's toughest threat to date. And I think the club will be the ones to knock off the New Day for the WWE Tag Team Championships at SummerSlam. So we'll have to see how that match plays out. But I like the beatdown by the club. The only minor thing that I didn't like here was the fact that the club lost. I felt like maybe you could have had a disqualification, a count out, something other than having the club lose. But otherwise, I enjoyed the beatdown and look forward to the match. So then after this, we move on to... We had Cesaro versus Sheamus after this. And then once we got to there, I believe we had Rollins versus Sami Zayn, which was technically the main event, even though it wasn't the last segment on the show here. Rollins versus Zayn was a really good match, probably the best match on the show here. You put two guys in the ring like Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins, they're going to go out there and have a phenomenal match. And that's exactly what they did. The never say die attitude of Sami Zayn and the tremendous acumen of Seth Rollins in that ring, who is probably one of, if not the best wrestlers in WWE today. They went out there and, like I said, they had a pretty good match. Rollins was able to get the win after he hit the pedigree on Sami Zayn. So Zayn, while he lost, I thought he looked valiant in defeat. He put up a good effort against Seth Rollins, but Rollins was the guy that needed to get the win here as he's heading into his match against Finn Balor at SummerSlam. So, he was the guy that needed to go over here, and I didn't have any problems with it. So, yeah, it was a good overall match. Then we move on to our final segment. It was the return of the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. Paul Heyman was there. I was so glad to hear that his contract situation was resolved with WWE and, that he was able to appear on Raw, because I was wondering, will Paul Heyman be there? I heard he might not be there till SummerSlam, but of course, Paul was there. He was great as ever. He was talking up Lesnar and his accomplishments as he's the conqueror of the Broctagon, and how he pretty much will, I think he said, burn Viperville to the ground, and how he's going to take it to Randy Orton, and how the only thing that Randy Orton really has to counter a beast like Brock Lesnar is the RKO. And Heyman's talking up Lesnar, like he's the second coming of Christ. And he talks about, I like this, he mentioned, people say he'll shock the world like Brock Lesnar shocked the world when he broke the Undertaker's undefeated streak, and people booed that, and he's like, oh, get over it. It was almost 2 years ago, and good stuff from Heyman. I could listen to this guy talk on and on and on. He's one of the best in the mic, if not probably the best in the company. And he says the only way Orton doesn't go to the hospital is if he hits that RKO. And Orton comes from under the ringside and hits Brock Lesnar with a surprise RKO. This played out beautifully. The crowd went nuts. I went nuts. We weren't expecting Randy Orton to be there. And Stephanie and Mick Foley are like, you got to get out of here. What the hell is he doing here? You're not supposed to be here. So they kept it, with the brand split. They're like, Orton's not supposed to be here. You got to get him out of here. Security, remove him. He runs into the crowd, and Lesnar's laid out with the RKO. Devastating, nice sell by Lesnar there. This was a great way to close out what I overall thought was a good episode of Raw. This is literally, I thought, if they're going to have Lesnar on Raw tonight, I was thinking they have to have Orton hit him with an RKO out of nowhere. RKO out of nowhere. So, good stuff. Good way to close out the show. Like I said, the show wasn't quite as good as last week's, but I still enjoyed it for the most part. I enjoyed the mixed tag match, Cesaro versus Sheamus. The club beatdown, the Balor Rollins promo, the squash matches with Nia Jax and Braun Strowman, continuing to build them up. Rollins versus Sami Zayn, really good main event match, and the segment with Lesnar. Overall, there was a lot to like on this edition of Raw, and we are only, folks, 3 weeks till SummerSlam. Cannot wait for that weekend. It is going to be hype. So I'm giving this week's edition of Raw a B-. B- for Raw this week. So, guys, that is my live Raw review. Apologize for not getting up after Raw last night. I was just really tired, so once again, apologize for that. But remember to stay tuned tonight at 10, around 10:10, 10:05. My live SmackDown review will be going up, so I will be giving you all my thoughts and opinions on SmackDown tonight. So we'll look forward to seeing what happens on SmackDown tonight. So, guys, thank you for tuning into this live Raw review. Remember to please click that like and subscribe button for more video content. And I will see you guys tonight after SmackDown. Until then, guys, take care.